Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review of One Piece Chapter 840, and for this one I do have my notes in front of me, so if I don't remember stuff off the top of my head I'm just going to refer to my notes here. Sorry, I usually wouldn't do it that way, but I don't really have a lot of time this weekend, so I'm just trying to do my videos kind of quick and get them up, and I don't really have time to spend a ton of time in editing, so I'm just going to go with my notes here in front of me and just talk through the chapter with you guys. And my thoughts on it and stuff, and I don't know, I feel like this one's hard to convey my thoughts on because I liked it and I thought it was still good, but I thought it was a definite noticeable step down in my opinion from where we have been, and even then it isn't even the worst that we've had. It's close to what I would consider the worst that we've had in the past few months, but even then it's definitely not the worst we've had in the past few months. And it sounds terrible putting it in those words, but I consider the worst we had in the past few months to be like maybe one of those chapters when we were in the Seducing Woods, and even then I still thought that was above average for any sort of comic. So I do still think it was good. Even though it was good, there were some definite things that I thought weren't as good as they could have been, or maybe even should have been. So it's kind of difficult to talk about it in that way. But as for the cover, we do see Chopper, Bartholomew Kuma, we got Beppo Kumashi, and they called it the hiking bear, but I don't really remember it. But either way, we have them eating honey, reference to Winnie the Pooh, really cool. Getting into the actual story, we have Yonji telling Sanji about he tells Sanji about them manufacturing human beings and that it's possible and stuff. And I love this entire first sequence with Sanji and Yonji. And then later when Niji and Ichiji arrived, I thought this was all really, really good and definitely way more solid than the flashbacks. But we find out that the Germa is a kingdom of science, which, I mean, they are technologically advanced. And it's not that much of a stretch. It's just sort of weird that it feels like the focus for the Germa has been a little bit unclear. Like, normally I feel like we're really focused on a certain thing. Like, Doflamingo's thing was that Dressrosa looked to be really nice on the outside, but it was really rotten to the core. And that he was a underground broker and a linchpin holding things together in the New World. And Big Mom's thing is that she has her whole big family, and her family and information network are a huge power in the world for her. And then for the Germa, it seems like we went to, okay, assassins, or again mercenaries, I've discussed is probably a better way to say it, and mercenaries makes a lot more sense. And I think what Yorozuya Whitebear Beppo said that in the official translation it's translated as a family of killers. So I mean, I do think that putting it all like that, it makes sense, but it just seems unfocused to me. But I mean, it's fine. Like, it makes sense, it just seems a little unfocused. And again, that's not necessarily bad. But we find out Judge was a scientist. Again, we kind of pulled that one out from the side where we hadn't really had anything to... Even if we were a kingdom of science, we had nothing so far to tell us that Judge was a scientist in any way and not just a warrior and a king. But apparently he was a scientist, and he worked alongside Vegapunk. And he discovered the lineage factor, and I think that's the most interesting point in the entire chapter, because the lineage factor, that's something new to us really, and we need to know a lot more about it, because I think that it's going to have a lot to do with the Will of D and the Tenryubito, or Celestial Dragons as well, and it'll probably have something to do with Devil Fruits too, so that's going to be something super important in the story that I think we're going to get a lot more on in the future. And we hear that Vegapunk was captured, and again, I hear a lot of other YouTubers talk whenever Vegapunk comes up, they're like, it's really unclear whether Vegapunk is good or evil in a lot of parts, but I'm going to lean more towards the evil side, because he is making the pacifista and stuff, but you could argue that the government was forcing him to make all these weapons. But even before being captured by the government, he was working with the Germa, and the Germa are kind of horribly, horribly evil dicks. So I'd say the fact that he was working with the Germa may mean that he was still a bad guy even before the government captured him. But these new dudes are called the Clone Pawns, and none of them even know somehow, even though there's only like 3 different designs, and like that means like 1 in every 3 people you meet looks exactly like you. So I'm not sure how they don't know that they're clones. But either way, it takes 5 years to grow a 20-year-old clone in one of those tanks, apparently, with all the experience of a 20-year-old person. Ichiji and Niji show up, and Sanji kicks Niji, which I thought was amazing. I freaking loved that. Yes, and Ichiji then brings up Zeph, and that stops Sanji from continuing his attack. And Niji says stealth, and it's hard to tell what his move does. Again, I've heard people talk, but it seems to me like he turned invisible, rushed behind Sanji, and then turned back visible again. And then he hits Sanji in the back with a knee attack, and then punches him in the face. And both attacks were like electric elemental, so I think that's really cool too. I like the electric attacks. It's really hype for Niji. Even though he's a dick and I want to see Sanji kick his ass, it was pretty cool. Then we go to the flashbacks. We find out that the 5 kids are genetically engineered and modified, and Sanji isn't as fast, strong, durable, or talented as the others, but we already knew this, and we spend like 2 pages almost, I think, going through a, maybe even more than that, going through just a montage of them training and stuff. Yeah, it may have been even 3 pages, or close to 3 pages. And then we have, we haven't mentioned that they are developing outer skeletons. So that's really strange, but it would mention, or it would explain why Yonji pulled his face back into, or had the doctor pull his face back into place that time, or how Niji pulled his face back into place this chapter after Sanji kicked him. So that does kind of make sense. I think it's also interesting that when they mention their progress, they're like, Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji are going really, really well. It seems the experiment was a success. So it's weird that they mention those 3, but they don't mention Reiju. So that makes me think, was Reiju... She had to be an experiment too, because she was there with them in the beginning with Judge. So it's really strange to me. It's a notable omission that they didn't mention her. And I don't think it's a mistake. I think it was definitely purposeful that they didn't mention Reiju. I'm just not sure why yet. Like, if there's a difference between how she was made and how they were made, or modified, not really made as much, but modified. Like, if there's a difference between it, or there's just some reason they didn't mention Reiju there that I think is going to be important. And we find out Sanji is developing as a regular human boy would. He isn't really, really strong and fast in developing an outer skeleton like the others. And he cooks for this mouse. Then we find out from Judge coming in that his mother is dead, so he did have a mother. And I'm thinking maybe she died from giving birth to children that were genetically modified. And if that's why, and it was some experiment, and that's why she died in childbirth or something because of the effects of that, maybe that could lead into somehow Sanji ending up with some sort of grudge against Judge for actually doing that, because in that way it would kind of be Judge's fault that his mom died, because if it wasn't for his experiments trying to make these genetically altered children, she'd still be alive. So I think that's interesting to bring up as well. Judge knocks the mouse and the food out the window, because once again, Oda just drilling in our heads over and over again, these are the bad guys. But Reiju tends to Sanji's wounds, and she says that she laughs with the others because she doesn't want to get bullied too. So it's interesting that Reiju is possibly maybe a good guy, just in a different sort of way. Maybe good isn't the word, but a not bad guy, not as much of a dick as the rest of the Vinsmokes. And then we see Judge hold a fake funeral for Sanji, and Sanji is locked away in the dungeon with an iron mask. Now, I enjoyed the story, or that chapter, but I feel like the story progress in the chapter was really, really short. I feel like where we were at the end of this chapter was essentially not very much further than we were at the beginning of the chapter, which is a problem I had with some of the, and a lot of people had with some of the Seduction Woods chapters, because they were just like, I don't know, we didn't feel like we got very far in them. I thought all the cloning stuff chambers stuff was great, all of it. I really liked the stuff with Sanji and Niji and them going in at each other and stuff. Sorry, seeing what else I have. I thought the flashbacks were a little bit drawn out. I thought it was kind of nothing new, because pretty much everything we saw in the flashbacks was stuff we'd already seen or stuff we'd already been told about. So I didn't think any of that was really a huge deal. The montage length I did think was a little bit stretched out. I didn't think we needed it to be that long or anything. And the whole Judge, and there was this one scene where Judge and the scientists talk about how Sanji's not up to par and how the rest are progressing, and then we have a very similar scene, almost the same scene again a couple pages later, and there was not any need for it really. I feel like we could have done that scene once and still had it. Like, we could have moved the stuff with Judge and the mouse and everything that was between the two scenes to before it happened, and it would make a lot more, maybe not a lot more, but it would make more sense to me. I just think that it was weird that the scene felt kind of repetitive, just going back and rereading it. Also, I'm really excited for the Lineage Factor stuff, because I think there's still a lot more cool stuff to learn there, and I think it's an interesting new concept to throw into the One Piece universe. And as for Sanji escaping this, however he escapes this and runs off to be a pirate, I personally think Reiju is going to help him escape, and she's sort of just been hiding it this whole time, so I think Reiju might be the one to help him escape. And yeah, I don't think it was as bad as some of the Seducing Woods chapters. And again, that's not saying they were bad, because I thought they were good, even if they were only just around average, tiny bit above average. But I think this was better than some of them, and then not as good as some others of them. So this, I think, was a step down from normal One Piece, but definitely above average for a normal comic. So because of that, I'd give it like 6.5 evil scientists out of 10. Which again, for One Piece, that's a little bit low for the One Piece manga, but not terribly low. And really, like I said, I thought it was above average, just not what we have gotten too much lately. I don't know though, because it feels like lately we've really gone down since Zoe. I feel like we're not as drawn out and not good as late Dressrosa was, but we're not as bad and drawn out as late Dressrosa, but we are nowhere near as good as what Zoe was every single week. A couple chapters have been amazing here and there for Whole Cake, and then there have been a lot of chapters I feel like for Whole Cake where we're sort of moving back into that place of kind of like where we were in Dressrosa, where we're like, oh, big things happened every now and then, but between all of that, there are just a bunch of really short chapters where I feel like not much happened. So I feel like Whole Cake may be wandering into a bad area story-wise, but either way, that's beside the point, and I thought this was pretty good. I already said that. So either way, thank you guys for watching. Like if you did like the video, and comment down there and tell me what you thought of this chapter and what you thought of my thoughts on it, because I'm definitely interested in what you have to say about it as well. Subscribe for more One Piece, both anime and manga, and a ton of other anime and manga, and other things as well, other than that, like plenty of other things. Follow on Twitter if you want as well, and I'll try to keep you updated there on stuff for the channel, like when I post anything, push anything back, etc. And that's it. So thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.